Hey everybody, Tekking101 here. Welcome back to my discussion series on Class 1A from My Hero Academia. It's the third video in the series, so I hope you enjoy. So without further ado, today's video is going to be about Momo Yaoyorozu, student number 20 of Class 1A, and it was just pure luck that I ended up talking about her third in the line. Okay, look, before we continue, I need to get something out of my system, just bear with me. Okay, we're good. We'll move on to the actual content of the video now. I know there's people that clicked on this that have no idea of who I was previously. They're just like, oh, a video about Momo for My Hero Academia. Yeah, I like her. Let's see what this guy has to say about her character. And then you get that. No, don't worry. It's a long video. We're going to cover a lot of stuff about her here. But just so you could understand, if you haven't already figured it out, Momo is one of my favorite characters. So I'm probably going to be a little bit biased in this video. Just a teensy bit. Before we get into her character, though, let me just explain to you one of the reasons why I like her so much, okay? And no, I'm not gonna start off immediately with boobs. Look, guys, I love boobs as much as the next guy, or girl, or titmouse, or whatever, but it's not like it revolves around, like, every character that has big knockers, I immediately, like, oh yeah, that's a really well-developed character right there. No, I'll tell you what Momo does do well, though, or at least Horikoshi does well with Momo's character, because he could have set up her character in a way that I would have absolutely hated, because I've seen this kind of character before, okay? This is a manga and an anime focused around high school. I mean, yeah, it's a bunch of high school students that have superpowers, but it's still heavily based around high school. And throughout my years, I've seen a lot of, like, you know, live-action television, because they were on the air all the time when I was a kid, you know, television shows about what it's like to be, you know, in high school, you know, like, stuff like that. A lot of other manga and anime I've seen before that have that kind of style, and there's a trope. There's a kind of character that's always included, and it's the spoiled rich girl who is an antagonist to the main character. You've seen that character before a bunch of times. Not always a girl, sometimes it's a guy, but a lot of times it's the spoiled rich girl. She's in school, she's popular, everyone likes her, and that's like an antagonist or a foil for the main character, okay? Momo is kind of a spoiled rich girl. I guess spoiled's not really the accurate word because she doesn't act like that, but she is a rich girl that got admitted to UA on personal recommendation, okay? She didn't have to take the entrance exam. She was pretty much just, you know, opened the door for her to go into the most prestigious school in the entire country. So, I mean, Horikoshi could have wrote her character as somewhat more of a foil for other characters in the class. He could have wrote her very snobbily, or, you know, like, oh, I'm more popular, I'm better than all of you. And so he kind of took that trope and kind of flipped it, and so Momo is now one of my favorite characters because of that. So way to go, Horikoshi. That's just one of the reasons why I like her, but we'll get into the rest of that. Okay, so just like a lot of the other students in Class 1A, we don't really know much about, like, their backstory in terms of their upbringing so much. It's hinted at, but it's not like we've seen Momo's parents or anything. Momo comes from a very prestigious hero family, so there's probably a backstory there that I would love to know about. Her parents might be famous heroes, or maybe they were heroes at one point in their earlier days, but maybe they retired, so you don't hear about Momo's parents anymore, but they're still very wealthy. Momo lives in a giant mansion with servants and everything like that. That's the kind of life she comes from, but instead of it making her snobby, it really just kind of makes her a little bit more sheltered. She's not, like, super introverted, but she's kind of socially awkward at certain points, where she doesn't really know the proper way to act in situations. The one that comes to mind is right after the battle trial that All Might was teaching at the beginning of the series, the battle trial arc, after you had Bakugo and Ida versus Uraraka and Izuku. They were doing, like, an analysis, and All Might was like, "All right, students, what do you think about this battle?" And then Momo raised her hand, and she gave an extremely in-depth analysis of the entire thing, and All Might at the end of it's kind of, like, intimidated by her, like, oh man, she actually knows her shit. Yes, well, you left a few things out, but you pretty much did a great job there. And, you know, you can tell that she's just like, I can explain everything, and then she just kind of drills it all off, kind of like a, you know, like, oh wow, you're kind of you're kind of showboating there. You're kind of like playing teacher or something. So that could be a little awkward. But all the other students warm up to her, and she doesn't have like a hard time getting friends or anything like that. It seems all the other female members of the class, you know, they all become good friends over the course of the next few months. And she wasn't trying to show off. I want to make that clear. It wasn't like she was like, oh, I'm going to try to show off in front of everybody to show how awesome I am and how smart I am. Once again, it's just because she was sheltered her entire life, and just imagine, she was probably imagining like her mom, like, okay, Momo, please explain how this battle trial went. And then Momo calmly stood up and like, yes, I will explain everything clearly and concisely. And that's how she was raised. But another defining moment early on is when she was elected to be the vice president of Class 1A. So they were doing the class elections and everything, and it actually turned out to be Izuku as the president, followed by Momo. Honestly, I feel like the class president thing was kind of like short-sighted because like the school year had just started, and I think even like Kirishima or Kaminari mentioned like we really don't even know each other very well, so how could we vote for who would be the best class representative or the class president if we don't really even know each other that well? So that's kind of weird that they were holding elections that early on, but maybe that's how it's done in Japan. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, Momo gets the second amount of votes, and she gets the vice president slot right away, but who gets the most votes was Izuku, and Izuku was terrified because he's like, I am not a leader. I am not suited for this position. So he passes on the position to Ito, who is definitely qualified for this position of class representative. And so with Ida and Yaoyorozu, I think Class 1A has the perfect set of representation for their president and VP. I think they're set there. Right, so as I already mentioned, Momo got into UA through a special recommendation, and there were only 4 such recommendations during the school year that, you know, like Izuku joined up, alright? So we know 2 of them. We know that Shoto Todoroki and Momo Yaoyorozu were the special recommendations from Class 1A, but I believe there's also 2 other recommendations from Class 1B. I think we might have actually known the 3rd one, but it's escaping me right now. If we do know the 3rd one, I'll throw it up. But I know there's one, the 4th one, that we don't know anything about of who got that special admittance. So we might actually touch upon that later down the line. But this special recommendation basically meant that they got in on merit alone, or I guess their families had enough clout. Like, Todoroki's dad is Endeavor. He's the number 2 hero. All Endeavor really has to do is make one phone call and be like, hey, UA, you're letting my son in. Okay, bye, click. And he doesn't even have to listen for a response. He'd be like, Todoroki, go. Don't mess up. You know, basically like that. Momo, once again, she comes from like an aristocratic, you know, very well-known family of heroes, so probably a similar way where they contacted UA and like, our daughter's pretty. There might have been like a preliminary test, like they want the files to see what their quirks are about and everything, but it's, actually it was stated the reason that Momo has such a powerful quirk is because she came from such a family that has a lineage of strong quirks, so makes sense. The same kind of thing that happened with Endeavor and Todoroki, except a little bit less violent, you know, because the whole reason Endeavor married his wife was because, like, oh, you have a powerful quirk, and I have a powerful quirk. Together we'll make the most powerful children. So her quirk is creation. Simply put, she can create any non-living object using the lipids in her body. So she can just pop out little nesting dolls, like very simple things, or she can make complex things like flash grenades and cannons. And it really doesn't seem like there's a major limit on what she can create outside of, you know, non-living things. Like, she can't create like a squirrel or something, like freaking Cars from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, just create living beings. She can't do that. But I really like this quirk, and of course it has to be counterbalanced a little bit, so, I mean, I'm sure... I mean, she can make things like flash grenades and stuff. As long as she knows the composition of what she wants to make, she can do it, and as long as it's non-living. Now, just a non-comprehensive list of some of the stuff she's created just to kind of give you an idea. You know, simple things like a metal staff, a sword, a shield, a net. During the USJ arc, she made that, I think it was like 100mm thick, like, insulator cloth around her. In that situation, when she made the cloth, it popped out of her back, so it actually ruined her hero costume in the process. And by the way, her hero costume is made up of, like, she names the parts of the costume after her last name. So her leotard is named the Yaoyoroatard. Her belt is the Yaoyoro belt. Her dictionary on the back is the Yaoyoro Ictionary. It's okay, fine, whatever. And also her hero costume, she's a fan service character, and like I said when I did my Nami discussion with One Piece, just because you're a fan service character doesn't mean you can't have other character traits. It doesn't mean you can't be a well-developed character just because you have big boobs and you wear a revealing outfit. Nami is an extremely well-developed character in both respects. Alright, so it's the same thing with Momo. Yes, it's a shonen. Horikoshi pretty much is obligated to throw in at least one, you know, female character with big boobs in the main cast, and Momo was just the one that ended up with that token, but, still a very good character. So yeah, that's the reason why her outfit is so revealing, partway for fan service, and also because using her quirk, she has to have her skin open in order to, you know, pull things out of it to, you know, make her creation quirk work and operate correctly. So having an outfit that has the most skin exposed just is practical for her quirk, you know what I mean? Right, so that's like the simple stuff that she's made. You'd understand, like, okay, this quirk is able to create objects, but there has to be, like, an upper limit to what she could create, right? If it was, like, the T-1000 from Terminator 2, like, she can't create any complex devices. It has to be stuck to, like, knives and stabbing weapons, you know, things like that. But no, that's not the case with Momo. She's made things like flashbangs and cannons and lighters and a fully functioning tracking device, as we saw in the latest episodes of Season 3. Like, think about that. She made a tracker and then, like, the actual device that can, you know, follow said tracker. You know, that's like an electronic device that has a bunch of moving parts and, like, circuitry in it. She could just create that as long as she knows the composition. That's why she has the Yaoyorozu dictionary. That's why she has a giant book that's propped up on her belt that she could pull out and, like, if she really needs to pay attention to see, like, okay, I need to, like, refresh my memory on how this is made. We don't know how intricate of a knowledge she needs to know. Like, does she just need to see a picture of the diagram of, like, a cell phone and then she can create a cell phone? She also implied that she could create night vision goggles. I'm assuming those are a little bit complicated. You know, so it's like, what is the limit here? Like, could she make bombs if she really wanted to? She made a flash grenade, so she could probably make regular grenades. Once again, you're a hero. In every single one of these videos, at some point, I'll think about how you could use your quirk to horribly maim and kill people. Like, Aoyama's naval laser, obviously. Jiro plugging her earphone jack into somebody's neck and then blowing up their head. Momo creating a nuclear bomb. You know, like, yeah, you think these things, like, because you think of, like, out of most shonen manga, it's like, okay, how can you use your ability to cause the most damage to your enemies in said manga? But in My Hero Academia, you're training to be heroes, so you can't go around and seriously maim and just kill every villain that you run across, because you're not really a hero at that point, you know what I mean? But, yeah, what is the full limit to what she can create? Here's a better question. And this is something that's always confused me, alright? I really don't get this. Like, the ability to just create complex machinery, okay, I could be alright with that. I mean, yeah, there's, like, the limits that we talked about, like, making bombs and stuff, but, like, okay, I'm fine with that ability. But the explanation that they give on how she's able to create, like, these, like, things out of nothing, you know, kind of a violation of one of the laws of thermodynamics there, you know, how is she just popping stuff into existence? No, she's not just popping them into existence. She's using the lipids in her body and transmogrifying them. You know, alchemy, I don't know. She's taking the lipids in her body and converting them into these devices. I'm like, or these objects. I'm like, okay, that's fair enough, and I'd be fine with that if she created, like, a small object, like, you know, she pulls a sword out of her leg, or a lighter, or even a shield, but a cannon? A freaking cannon? She opens up her shirt, oh my, and then, like, spawns an entire cannon that's, like, almost as tall as she is, and the cannonballs and stuff necessary to fire out of it, and she just spawns all that. Now, using the lipid, your body has a set amount of lipids. You'd think creating something that big would make her extremely emaciated, but it doesn't. And it's even implied, you know, during the training camp when they were all training to improve their quirks. Like, Kaminari was set up to the generator, and Tokoyami was in the dark cave trying to control Dark Shadow, you know, and Mineta had to pop off his balls constantly. You know, what Momo had to do, along with Sato, because their quirks involve, you know, using their bodies like chemistry in some way, they were sitting at a table and just constantly stuffing their faces, Sato eating sugar to use his sugar rush quirk, and and then Yaoyorozu was just eating a bunch of boxed lunches in order to constantly create those little Russian nesting dolls. Like, so yeah, it's like the more lipids she has in her body, the more things she could create, and there's probably an upper limit to what she can create at once, but I want to know what that upper limit is, because once again, she made an entire cannon. Not just a tiny little miniature cannon, a giant cannon out of her body, and it was perfectly fine. Right, but I'm not going to stick on that too much. It's just something that's kind of bugged me. I'm not going to make this a whole discussion about, like, hey guys, let's talk about lipids and triglycerides. Mostly because, I mean, I don't really know much about it. It's been a long time since I've taken a bio course, guys. It's been a long time. The last one was when I was in college, probably like fall of 2012. And that was more of like an evolutionary biology class, more about like taxonomy and like evolution than it was like learning about like lipids and, you know, amino acids and proteins and stuff like that. And Horikoshi's a pretty good writer with this. Like, it's not so overpowered that the character is completely broken, and it's also so not like all these limitations are placed on it which make her very weak and useless. Like, she's going to be a hero. Could Yaoyorozu create an Uzi or any kind of automatic weapon and just blow away the villains if she really wanted to? Probably. If she studied the composition, she could do it. So, but she doesn't, because that's not how a hero rolls. A hero, you name me one superhero from any comic book that rolls up to the freaking fight, decked out with a bunch of automatic machine guns, and just starts and just mowing down all the opponents. There's not a single hero that does that. But yeah, suffice it to say, I really enjoy her quirk, and Horikoshi honestly has to keep her balanced to the point where she's not too OP, but still very useful to the rest of the class and everything. Like, she committed a lot of stuff to memory, like during the training camp attack, you know, the villain Mustard uses gas in order to... Oh, mustard gas! I just got that! No, I'm just kidding. I knew about that. It's very obvious. But she could create gas masks without her dictionary. Like, she already committed that to memory. Probably a lot of other stuff, too, like, I'm trained to become a hero, there's certain things that villains might use against me that I just need to counter right away. So if a villain uses a gas weapon, I can create a simple gas mask with a filter right away. Or if a villain, you know, if I want to distract a villain, I could use a flashbang. Or if it's at nighttime and I can't see, I'm going to create night vision goggles. You know, so that's probably like a few stuff that she just committed to memory, along with her like basic, you know, like outfit and her uniform. Like, she could just recreate her hero outfit whenever she wants as well. Things like a basic metal staff that she created during the USJ, probably something very basic for her to understand. All she probably has to know is like the composition of iron or steel, and then she's like, all right, I'll make a very long rod of steel, and then boom, we're good. Is her quirk limited to like certain elements? Like, could she create gold? That's the thing, you know, like, I don't think Horikoshi's gonna go too far into that, kind of just like, just leave it up to a lot of your imagination. But could she create any element on the periodic table? That's something I'm kind of curious about. You know, I don't think that's ever been addressed. I hope it is, though. Another big moment from her is when, during the sports festival, she kind of gets taken down a little bit during her battles, because she makes it to the final, like, individual battles, and she gets paired off against Tokoyami. And it's really just a situation where she was overthinking the circumstances too much, and I think it was because of that overthinking that she kind of overlooked a lot of simple things, and she wasn't really prepared for what was going to happen, right? She should have just calmed down, and maybe she would have done a lot better. Hey guys, I'm doing this in post right now, but I just wanted to kind of go into a little bit more detail of how the fight between Yaoyorozu and Tokoyami could have went another way, because I don't really touch upon that in this one. I just say that she could have done better, and I think she could have. But the cool thing about Yaoyorozu's creation quirk that you have to understand is that it puts her in a interesting position to prepare for a battle before it actually begins, because a lot of other times, you know, like with Dark Shadow, yeah, it's a pretty impressive quirk, but you know, Tokoyami really can't do anything before the battle starts. You know, the battle starts and Dark Shadow comes out and it's whatever happens. But Yaoyorozu, she knows about Dark Shadow. She knows what it is. She could have created big spotlights or like something to hold on to like emit a lot of light to weaken it. She's made flashbangs at other points in the story, so you know she has access to that technology. So I really think this is a situation she was just thinking way too much into it. She was focused too much on physical defense. defense, she got into the battle arena, and I think the first thing she thought of was like, I need to protect from getting hit. But what she should have been thinking was, I need to negate Dark Shadow altogether, because it's even been stated, like, a Dark Shadow that is in too much light is weaker than a cockroach. So just, you know those giant spotlight things that people have to like spot deer and stuff, you know, just make one of those, and then just like boom, like a giant halogen light that just blinds the entire battle arena. Not only would it negate Dark Shadow, it would also blind Tokoyami. And how does she negate that for herself? Well, make a really good pair of sunglasses or something to put on, and then you don't get blinded, and then your opponent gets blinded, and his quirk is neutralized. I'm just saying, this battle could have gone completely different if she was just, you know, if she just calmed down and had a more level head throughout everything. But seriously, just imagine this, okay? Your entire life, that was a voice crack. Your entire life, you are bred to be this hero by this prestigious family. Your mother is teaching you this stuff constantly, okay? And you're a very dignified student at the most prestigious school in the country, all right? And you're in this sports festival, and you make it all the way up to the final rounds, so to speak, where you're doing the individual battles. And this is like the last stage of the sports fest, okay? And so you're up against Tokoyami, you step into the ring, and then you immediately get knocked out. Like, before you can even think about what happened, you just lose. Like, right there. Imagine how much that must have hurt her mentally. That really messed her up. This wasn't something that she just got back up on her feet and just brushed it off and like, all right, I guess I'll do better sometime. No, this affected her all the way up until the end of the semester during the exam, when her and Todoroki were paired off against Aizawa. That's where she kind of got her groove back. You know, Yaoyorozu got her groove back. But no, seriously, because, you know, she got in on special recommendation. She kind of felt like a lot of people thought highly of her, and a lot of people do think very highly of her. And so she goes up against Tokoyami, and she just kind of like, okay, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a shield to block Dark Shadow. So she throws up a shield, but Dark Shadow, all it had to do was just kind of hit her really hard and just, and then it knocked her back, and she fell out of the ring, and she lost. And it wasn't like, you know, oh, Momo's so weak. Like, no, she's not weak. She was just really nervous in that situation, and she probably felt all the eyes are on her. Like, I have to do well. I have to. I got into this school special recommendation. My parents, you know, raised me to be a great hero. I pretty much have to rank in the top 3 in the Sports Fest. I have to. But during the confrontation between Aizawa and when she's teamed up with Todoroki, and Todoroki kind of gives her some motivation, Todoroki actually says to her, like, I was the other one that voted for you in the class elections because I think you can do this. I really have faith in you. And, you know, this has kind of led to a lot of fan shipping between Momo and Shoto. Probably the most I've seen in the story, probably outside of, like, Izuku and Uraraka, you know? So, I mean, look, I'm not really gonna indulge this all too much. Honestly, if you want my opinion on the whole Todoroki Yaoyorozu thing, I'm totally for it. Oh my god, they are so kawaii together. I mean, look at these. Oh my god, they would make such amazing children together. Okay, yeah, but in all honesty, Yaoyorozu probably does have some admiration for Todoroki, and it's returned on his end as well, just because they're both really talented students, and they kind of have faith in each other, and they're a really good team, and yeah, I could definitely see them getting together by the end of the story. I mean, they're both, you know, special recommendation kids. I totally could see that. So, and honestly, during the training camp arc, that's when you start to see Momo for like what like her hero position could be, more than just like a direct, you know, I'm gonna go attack all the villains. I could be more of a support hero, because think of all the stuff that Momo did during the training camp arc. If it wasn't for her creating those gas masks, a lot of students could have straight up died. You know, they really could have, because there were like Hagakure and Jiro that got the full brunt of that gas, and they got the gas masks on them, you know, after the fact, but they still passed out. But imagine if, you know, Yaoyorozu wasn't around and she couldn't create those gas masks. A lot of students would have dropped down there. So you think more of her as like a, you know, not a sidekick, but more of just like, I can, you know, support. So if she was part of a team, you know, she could make weapons for her team and a bunch of like specialized things. Like if your team's like raiding a hideout or something, and it's like, like, oh, we need like a fiber optic wand or a mirror or something to look under this door to see if there's villains under there. Like, okay, hold on a second, I'll make one. There you go. So yeah, definitely would do better in a team. Let's see what else here. Well, we have the Rescue Bakugo, the Hideout Raid arc that is occurring right now in the anime, and the situation with that is Momo pretty much went along in a similar vein with Ida, more as just like, I'm going to make sure that you guys don't do anything too stupid and you try to attack a bunch of villains, and it's a repeat of the Hosu incident with Stain, and if anything happens, I will immediately call the police, and I'll have them take care of it. I'm going to drag you guys away. Same thing with Ida. You know, he was like, I'm basically more of like a chaperone than actually helping you with the cause. You know, we're going to here to take back Bakugo, but if it looks like we have to fight, we're getting out right away. And I can understand that from Momo's part. Also, maybe she's feeling a little bit of guilt, because even though she did help a lot of students during the training camp, she ended up falling. She got a concussion. The Tool Arm Nomu was attacking them. Iwase, who's a member of the of Class 1B, he had the welding quirk. He kind of grabbed her and kind of carried her away. Momo was smart enough, and at the last second, she with a quick thinking, even after she had a concussion and she's bleeding from the head, she's like, I need to do something, and that's when she created the tracking device to stick on that Nomu. So, you know, she's learning on that end to think more like at the moment instead of like being all analytical. Like you're not always going to have time to sit down and like analyze the whole situation in front of you. A lot of times you just got to think quickly, and Momo's learning that trait, and I think she's definitely going to improve in that later on. Really, after the Hideout Raid arc, we don't really get much more of her. She does pass the provisional license exam. She's one of the first people to pass it. We see her in the waiting room just chilling out. That's not really a big surprise there, but she doesn't really have any big standout moments during the provisional license part of it. During the Cultural Fest, well, she doesn't appear during the Chisake arc at all, really. Maybe in the background, but she's not part of the raid on the compound or anything. During the Cultural Fest, she's one of the people that comes up with the idea for the big, you know, the dance number and everything, and she plays the keyboard, I believe. So she's really talented with that, or piano, so in this case it's just modifying a little bit to the keyboard. That's something else I've always kind of curious about, because I want to play the piano, or I want to learn how to play the piano at some point, but every time I try to sit down it's really hard. Is there a big difference between the keyboard and the piano? Because I figured it's like the same thing, it's just the keyboard's more, you know, compact than an actual large piano, but maybe there's a big difference, I don't know. But anyway, yeah, so she plays the keyboard during the Cultural Fest, and that's last time we've seen her really play a major role. Then again, we are just moving on to a new arc, like right now in the manga. I really don't even know where this arc is going, honestly, but we'll see where it's at. So yeah, hopefully get to see some Momo action in this arc now. Something else about her personality is that she loves to be useful, especially since everything that, you know, happened, I just talked about with, like, the sports fest and everything. She likes the idea to feel like she can help out, or that she's fulfilling her role as the VP of the Class 1A. She's like, oh, okay, I can be useful here. She doesn't like to be like, oh, I'm just off to the side and I'm gonna let other people fight for me and stuff like that. So during the situation when they were studying for the end of term exams, they all kind of like looked to her like, oh, you'll help us study? And she's like, yes, I can help you study. Oh, we could meet at my house. It's gonna be great. And then we see a scene of everybody at Momo's house, and it's this big mansion, and they're all sitting at the dining room table studying, and she has her glasses on, and she's like a teacher, which that's another profession I could totally see her being. Like, I mean, we've already seen like professional heroes also being teachers. That's what UA kind of is all about. Like you have people like Present Mike, who's he's the mic hero, the voice hero, but he's also teaching like English class. So I totally see Momo doing that, right? Like even after she graduates, becomes a pro hero, she also teaches courses at UA. I mean, totally she would be one to do that. Finally, let us discuss her relationship with Mineta. It's a little weird of a relationship, I must say. Mineta is, of course, a extremely perverted, character, of course, and because Momo is a little bit more well-developed than all the other kids of the class, Yaoyorozu is the subject of a lot of Mineta's affections, right? And there's a lot of comic relief between the two. Probably the first time we see this is during the battle trial when they're paired up to fight against, I forget what their team they're actually, I think it was Tokoyami and Tsuyu, I think was the team that they were going up against. But anyway, one of the things that Momo does is that she's like, okay, I'm going to use my quirk to make a bunch of steel beams to support the doors so they can't get in, which, by the way, that's something else. Like, look at all these steel beams she was able to pull out of herself. Like, damn, that's like, is that serious? Like, steel? Like, not hollow or anything? Like, that's a straight up steel beam like you would find in a construction yard? Damn. I don't get it. But anyway, yeah, she's making these steel beams, right? And then Minata's in the background, and he's, like, staring at her butt and just giving the thumbs up, and she just kind of stares and glares at him or whatever. But the weirder moment is during the sports fest when they're running, you know, they're doing the race to the end, and Minata manages to make it by literally clinging onto her butt the entire time. I'm just saying it's a little bit of a weird dynamic, because we've seen this kind of perverted character before from a lot of other anime, and usually how I'm used to seeing the dynamic working is that perverted character does something perverted, and then one of the other characters that's very sensible is like, I'm not having any of this, and like punches them in the face, and it's like, oh, a little bump pops up on your head, like, you know, like Master Roshi from Dragon Ball or something. With Momo and Minata, just like, oh, well, he's a pervert. What can you do? So it's maybe a little bit more of an interesting dynamic between the two. I don't know. Minata x Momo? I don't know, man. I'm just throwing it out there. I just noticed it as something weird between the interactions that they have, you know? Alright, well, okay, so that was Momo Yaoyorozu's character. I could go on and on. In fact, I kind of want to. But let's try to make these all around, I guess, the same basic length. A lot of people have asked me, like, what are you going to do when you get to characters like Sato or like Ojiro, who we don't really know a lot about? Like, how are you going to make entire videos about them that are like, you know, 20 minutes long? Like, well, their videos are probably going to be more about speculation and theory about how they could use their quirks in the future rather than how we've seen them use them so far in the story. Like, talking about Momo in this video, like, you could just, like, have a huge laundry list of just everything that she could create. That's just not a living organism. So beyond that, it's pretty much free reign of the crazy crap she could eventually develop. Like, it's nothing so ridiculous, like she can get to the point, like, she could make a car or something. Like, we've never seen her make something that big, but maybe if she trains her quirk, maybe she could. Or, like, maybe, like, not necessarily a car, but like a Vespa, like a little mini scooter or something. Maybe something like that she could make, you know, eventually with training. So, yeah, I mean, maybe leave a comment below on the things that you would like to see Momo create in the future. Oh, and I forgot to bring up her hero name, which maybe it sounds more creative in Japanese. I don't know. Her hero name is just Creati. The creation hero, Creati. I'm like, really? Creati? That seems like something like a 5-year-old would come up with. But then again, Momo is kind of sheltered. Personally, if I had her quirk, I would use it to create a bunch of pop figurines, because I like me pop figurines, and I have a collection of them, but it would be cool to just, you know, pop them into existence whenever I wanted. You know, that'd be pretty neat. But, by the way, while we're discussing Bakugo here, I also ran into a piece of fan art, this is completely unrelated, but of Momo wearing Bakugo's costume. So I thought that would just be cool for you guys to see. I liked it. I got a laugh out of that. But, yeah, so that's Momo Yaoyorozu. Now, something that I forgot to do last time, I forgot when I was going to do this list, I was going to rank each member of Class 1A in my own eyes, like how I personally like them. Not how, like, you know, based by power or anything like that, just my own personal opinion. And I wanted you guys to do that too. So Aoyama was ranked number 9 in my eyes. I forgot to tell you Jiro last time. Jiro I put at number 11. And I even had to move around this list a little bit. I had to modify it a little bit because this is hard, man. It's really hard to rank all the classmate members, even on your personal preferences. It's a difficult thing. So Jiro is number 11, and I ranked Momo Yaoyorozu at number 3. I mean, she's one of my favorite characters, so you shouldn't be surprised that she ranked pretty high in my eyes. But yeah, so that's that. Moving on now to everybody's favorite part of these videos. We are going to be rolling ourselves a D20. I got a nat 20 last time. I got a natural 20 to get Momo. So I have the little sheet up here to see which classmate we're going to talk about next. So let's do it. Roll that D20, kids. We got 14. 14 is Tokoyami. I swear to God, I am not fudging this. All right, it's rolladie.net. Go check it out. Like, seriously, like, look, these are the stats. It just happens to be, just by pure coinkydink, this happens to keep being like all my favorite characters in My Hero Academia happen to be pulling up on these die at random intervals. This honestly is kind of concerning me a little bit, though, because I feel like I'm going to get through all my favorite characters, and then near the end I'm just going to have all my least favorite characters, and I'm not going to want to talk about them. But no, don't worry. I'm going to stick with it. I started this, so I'm going to get through it. Might very well get even Tokoyami's video out by the end of this week, because he is like he's number one. I'll tell you right now. I've already said this before in other places. He's number one out of my entire class 1A list. So yeah, that's Tokoyami. Okay, we'll be talking about him next time. Crowboy, signing out, everyone.